Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1982, and today we're going to talk about Robotron 2084. The story of Robotron 2084 takes us back to VidKids. We briefly mentioned VidKids in our videos on Defender and Stargate. The two founders, Eugene Jarvis and Larry DeMar, had previously worked for Williams Electronics, and VidKids still had a good relationship with the publisher. Robotron 2084 takes inspiration from several sources. The first source is Berserk, which we talked about and played in its own video. Berserk is a 1980 arcade shooter released by Stern Electronics in which the player shoots robots while trying to navigate a maze. The game was also inspired by Chase, a text-based computer game in which the player moves text into other characters. The original idea for Robotron 2084 was a chase game in which the player forced robots that were chasing the character into stationary obstacles. However, this was seemed too boring, so shooting elements, inspired by Space Invaders, were added. To control the shooting, a new technique was used. Eugene Jarvis had suffered an accident, injuring his right hand. Jarvis realized that he would not be able to use the standard controls of a single joystick and a fire button while he was injured. Looking at Berserk, Jarvis also realized that he was not happy with the idea of the character always shooting the direction that they were moving. The control scheme was changed to having two joysticks. One joystick moves the character, while the second joystick controls the direction of fire. This gives the player more freedom to control their shots while still remaining easy to control. While this was not the first time the control scheme was used, it was also used in Taito's 1975 arcade game Gunfight, which we have briefly mentioned. This was still a new concept to many arcade players. Jarvis and DeMar added a rescue theme as well, similar to Defender's rescue theme. In the game, the player can rescue a family for extra points, which also encourages the player to get a high score. For the setting, the two men were inspired by George Orwell's novel 1984. However, with the year 1984 approaching, the two men pushed the setting 100 years in the future, to 2084. Looking that far in the future, Jarvis felt that computers would become pervasive and then revolt against humans. The player plays a human fighting against the robot revolt. The creators decided on a single screen in order to confine the action. They placed the player in the middle of everything to not only increase the tension, but also to make the game more challenging. The game was designed on a Motorola 6809 microchip, a powerful chip for the time, and displayed on a 19-inch CRT monitor, which was large for the time. Robotron 2084 is a two-dimensional shooter. The player plays a genetically engineered superpowered human known as the Robotron Hero in the year 2084. The player plays against the robots, the Robotrons, who have taken control and nearly wiped out the entire human race. The player tries to save the last human family. The game is played in waves or levels. As the player destroys the robots, the player will move on to the next wave. The difficulty in the waves increases quickly, not only by having more robots, but also different kinds of robots. Robotron 2084 was released to arcades in 1982. It was developed by VidKids and published by Williams Electronics. That is the backstory to Robotron 2084. With that now told, it's time to play the game for ourselves. And here we are in the game. This is Robotron 2084. As you can see, we have a list of Robotron heroes in front of us. Dr. J is once again at the top. I have always assumed that is Eugene Jarvis. We have to save the last human family. We will attempt to do that when I can. I do have to point out that this is one of the most eye-catching introduction screens that we have seen to this point. You're definitely going to be seeing this screen across the arcade. But we do have a story. Robotron 2084. Inspired by his never-ending quest for progress, in 2084, man perfects the Robotrons, a robot species so advanced that man is inferior to his own creation. Guided by their infallible logic, the Robotrons conclude the human race is inefficient and therefore must be destroyed. You are the last hope of mankind. Due to a genetic engineering error, you possess superhuman powers. Your mission is to stop the Robotrons and save the last human family. That's Mommy, Daddy, Mikey. That's it? No. The force of ground roving unit network terminators, grunts, Robotrons, seek to destroy you. The Hulk Robotrons seek out and eliminate the last human family. You cannot destroy the Hulks. We'll get into that. The spheroids and quarks are programmed to manufacture Enforcer and Tank Robotrons. Beware of the ingenious brain Robotrons that possess the power to reprogram humans into sinister progs. As you struggle to save humanity, be sure to avoid electrodes in your path. You can also shoot them, but don't walk into them. And that is the story. That is quite the introduction. There's a lot going on in this game that we have not seen in other games before. Once again, though, I feel the need to point out that I am not particularly good at shooters, so this will probably not be a long time, or at least lots of levels into the game, but we'll see what I can do. We need to save the last human family. Once again, that's probably not going to happen. Mommy, Daddy, and Mikey are probably kind of screwed. Also, if they're the last human family and they only have one son, just throwing that out there. Let's start the game. All right, so the game gets frantic pretty quickly. Save Mommy here. Did not save Daddy, though. Can save Mikey. Mikey was right there. All right, so we have the Hulks in front of us. They're going for the family. They're probably going to do well with that. You can't destroy the Hulks, but if you destroy everything else, you move on to the next level. Yeah, we're going to go at a frenetic pace here. It's just the way that the game is designed. Okay, trying to clear room for myself. Trying to save the family where I can, but points are not that important to me, to be honest. Alright, just die. There we go! How many Mikeys, Mommies, and Daddies are there? Alright, we're doing... Oh, we were doing okay. I had to say something. There is a way in the game to get an Easter egg. I'll probably have to show that off in my review. I'll let somebody else take care of that. There's so many mommies! Why are there so many mommies? Alright, because they can be turned into progs. That's why there's so many of them. So many brains on the screen. We're only on wave number 5. If I remember right, I'm told that there are a total of 40 waves. Whew, I'll not be able to show all of them off. I am not that skilled at the game. That's just the way that it is. But once you get to level 40, it starts looping levels 21 through 40 kind of over and over again. I thought that was Mikey. Alright, we got a game over. Alright, we'll enter in our initials. There we go. Fire up. We'll put in my actual initials here. Alright, you know what? I did pretty well. I got 3rd. I will accept that. Let's try it one more time. See what I can do. Save the last human family. Yeah, there's a series of button combinations that you can do to get an Easter egg. And I'll see if I can find somebody else that can do it, because I am not skilled enough to be able to do it. It's like, you know, head, right, shoot up, head left, shoot up, something like that. And it, you know, to do it in the middle of a fight is not in my skill set. Alright, trying to get the humans. Oh my goodness, look at that. That was a lot all at once. They were just all coming for me. No, I got hit. Wait, what? What is still left for me to shoot? Oh, there they are. They just weren't on the screen yet. I had to wait for them to show up. Oh, there's so many. No! That's the thing about this game, like, I cannot keep track of everything that's going on. I just walked right into that, didn't I? No! I thought I shot in the right direction. Alright, I think I got one more in me. We'll see if I can do a little bit better. But this is a very frenetic and fast game, but it still feels like you're getting your money's worth because you're getting through quite a few levels at a time. So yeah, 3rd and 4th. Not sure I'm going to be able to beat that first score, but we'll see what I can do. If I remember right, the Easter egg was basically just credits. Somebody once again kind of pointing out what they created. I'm not always the best with the second control, the second stick. Sometimes I think that it's pointing like straight up and down, and it turns out to be diagonal. That's one of my issues. Among many that I have, I'm sure. But overall, I would say that the control scheme really does work very well. Ah. Thought I moved the stick over just straight to the right, but I did not. Alright, so that was a spawner, I assume. There's so many. Get out of there! Oh, I didn't even see that one. There's just so many, and I got myself into a corner. Okay. This is the level that's done me in every time, so I'm not having high hopes for this. Ow. Those progs are pretty insane. But you can see the influence of Defender on this. Is that it for me? Yeah, that's it. You can see the influence of Defender because of, like, rescuing the humans and them turning into some of the hardest monsters in the game if you don't save them. But that level number 5, it was just too hard for me. So we didn't get to see tanks. We didn't get to see quirks. I don't think... We did see some of the spawners, though. But, yeah... I think I did pretty well. I made at least the high score list. I wasn't able to get the highest score, but I think I did all right for myself. So, with the game now played, let's talk about how it holds up today. Playing the game today, I do have to say that it is fun. First and foremost, this is a fun game. It's one that I personally can't spend a lot of time playing because I'm not particularly good, so I'm just kind of rehashing the same things over and over again. But if you are better than me at the game, there is a lot to enjoy here. And honestly, one of my instincts right now is that I want to try to get better at the game so I can experience it longer and I can go further into the game. But my skill set just isn't there right now. The game and its gameplay, I would say, are the standout. The gameplay itself is what draws people to the game. The fact that you can move in one direction and shoot in a different direction is a huge bonus. And we have only seen that in one other game that we have played to this point, and that would be Castle Wolfenstein. But that game, the shooting is not necessarily the main thing that you're doing, depending on your playstyle. But in this game, this is the core concept of what makes this game great is that you can move in all directions and shoot in different and all directions. That is novel and something that we haven't seen in an action-based game before, and this does it very well. The gameplay is the main draw. It is fast, it is frenetic, it is keeping you engaged at all times, and that is something that not all the other games could do. Even something like Space Invaders, which I said had that tension, it had something that drew you in and made you feel like you were doing something. I would argue that even Space Invaders doesn't have the same level of tension that Robotron 2084 was able to do. At least when you start. Space Invaders, when there's just that one enemy left, ooh, that one's hard. But that is the level of game that we're talking about here. I would say that it is the first shooter that matches and surpasses Space Invaders in almost every respect. Everything else was kind of lacking something that Space Invaders brought to the table, but Robotron 2084 brought the tension. It brought the need for attention from the player at all times that none of the other games really were able to capture. So I would argue that Robotron 2084 is arguably the best shooter, in my opinion, that we have played to this point. It is very good. And it's done in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect, because the graphics, if we're being honest, are not that great. For the amount of chips that, well, the high-powered chip that they were able to use, the Motorola 6809, the graphics are a little lacking. They're a little bit behind the times. There's no background. You're on a black screen, and it's not really... The sprites are not really made in a way for an arcade game that make it apparent what you're looking at. They do explain it, which is nice. The fact that they do have the story in the introduction there is great. Not a lot of games do that. So there's a lot to like about this game. But the graphics, I would say, are a little bit behind. But for the time, I would say they're passable. It's not like they're bad graphics. It's just not necessarily as impressive as some of the other games that are being released at this time. In terms of the sound's good. Because we're in the far future and we're shooting lasers and all that, it's kind of hard to associate that with the sounds with what I am actually doing. It doesn't necessarily feel like I'm shooting all the time based on the sound, but it's passable for the time. Once again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with the graphics or the sound, but we have seen better to this point. And those, I would say, are the downfalls of this game. If there are, any downfalls, at least they are the lesser side of the game. The gameplay and the story are definitely what stands out to me. The fact that this game at least felt louder than many of the games that we have played is also a draw. This is a game that's designed to bring you in, from the flashy introduction screen to the loud sounds to the fact that it's a different control style. All that is going to bring people to the game in the arcade setting. And I think that this game really does a lot of things right. And it does a lot of the little things right. And that's something that we don't necessarily see a lot. So honestly, playing the game, I would recommend it. If you have not played Robotron 2084, I would find some version to play. Obviously, when you first play, you're not going to be able to last very long on a quarter. At least it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. But this is definitely a game worth your time. And that's my modern take on the game. When Robotron 2084 was released, it became popular. It would sell over 19,000 arcade cabinets. It was also popular among the critics. The gameplay and control scheme is often seen as Robotron 2084's best aspect, while the graphics and concept are sometimes considered basic. As time has gone on, the impact of Robotron 2084 has been viewed more and more favorably. It is routinely listed amongst the best video games of all time. It is said to have influenced entire genres of action games in the future. The game would go on to spawn ports, remakes, and sequels. We will keep an eye on these as we continue. Looking ahead, we will be hearing from VidKids again briefly. They created one additional game that we will mention. That game will also mark the last time we hear from Larry DeMar again. However, we will continue to hear from Eugene Jarvis again in the future. As for the publisher, Williams Electronics, we will be hearing from them again in the future as well. That will do it for the story of Robotron 2084 for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we go stomping.